Welcome to Social Media Connection. I'm Jay Deragon with the Relationship Economy.
And I'm David Bullock with the Dave Bullock Show.
Today, David and I are going to have a conversation and wanted to share it with you. And I think the subject matter we want to talk about is what I've coined as social currency. And you know, when we look at the web, David, is talking about an exchange of conversation. Mm-hmm. And then businesses are looking for a return on their investment. So, as a series of shows, today I'd like to talk about with you, what do you think the currency is that's going on with these exchanges?
Well, let's look at that. The conversation itself, inherently the conversation, has no value. Because you can have a conversation, if it doesn't lead to an action, if it doesn't lead to a lead, a transaction, the initiation of a real conversation that can produce an ROI, really just didn't do anything but exchange words.
Well, wait a minute, David. What about if I share something with my people that follow me or I follow them, and it's knowledge that I'm sharing? That's the currency. I'm giving them something of value because when I give them a new knowledge or they give it to me, I learn something and thus I can do something with that knowledge. Right. What about that as currency?
Well, you just made, in that definition, you just made a different assumption. If you go into Twitter and to Facebook and to MySpace now, you see a bunch of conversation about what you had for breakfast. I'm now on the highway. I'm doing this and the other thing. That in itself is not inherently valuable.
I
it's
agree
interesting, but not valuable. You're speaking of knowledge. Knowledge has the supposition that you can do something with it. There's some practical application in the real world. Knowledge is very different than just idle conversation.
I totally agree. If I ask a question on Twitter,
crowdsourcing,
or if I put a blog out and people respond to it, I look to learn, to gain better understanding about my perspective on things from the crowd responding and giving me their feedback. So I'm actually gaining a currency that I call thank you for your knowledge. They're giving it to me.
Well, that used to be called, in the old world, that used to be called polling and surveying. And we know that that's a very big business. There's a lot of value in finding out what the people think, what's their popular opinion. The Nielsen ratings, that's been something that you're asking, what are you listening to? What are you watching on television? Because you can start to judge things. You can make assumptions. You can make decisions based on just knowing. So you're talking about having a conversation and extracting knowledge. That's a very different situation. That's specialized knowledge.
And that's a currency.
Right, but that knowledge has a purpose. Only when the knowledge has a purpose for either getting information or then practical application does it become inherently valuable.
So a currency in a conversation is really manifest itself when there's a giving and a gaining rather than just chatter.
Exactly.
I'll give you an example. I recently put out on Twitter, what do people know that's going on in the healthcare industry and how they're using social media? I got feedback recommending where I can go find more information or what sites are focusing on healthcare. I gained the knowledge because I was looking for it, doing some research. I consider that currency that the audience gave to me.
Well, let's look at that. Let's look at that and make the analogy with Google. Google really is what? The repository of the internet. It's where is stuff? How can I get to stuff quickly? What am I looking for? I'm looking for an answer to that question, where is it? Now, what you just did was very much a search engine-like process.
Correct.
You asked a question, the marketplace, in your case Twitter, came back to you with information. So you didn't have to go through looking for it yourself. You didn't have to spend any of your time, which means now your ROI was actually time leverage.
Time becomes the currency.
In that particular instance, yes.
And time, you think about that, is a currency because it's limited. And if I can find ways to save time for me, for my client, by tapping into a crowd who has perspectives and knowledge, and they can feed me that and help me save time, I gained a currency. Now, I don't end up paying for it except appreciation, a relationship with the crowd, if you will.
And then you take it a step further. You speak on a very important thing there. Peter Drucker, who's the management guru of all gurus, speaks of time as the one thing, it's the scarcest resource that we'll ever have. Because that second is gone. We will never get that opportunity back again. We start with the same amount. We end with the same amount every day. So now with social media and the internet, the way it's moving now, compressing time by getting information from people and then taking that and now making different decisions with it, that's the real ROI. That's what you use it for.
But you know, we're onto something, and I think we should come back and do a show on that. The currency of time.
Okay.
Dan Robles, who has a show on here, is talking about the knowledge economy and how knowledge properly shared and assimilated, if the objective is to save you time, you gain a currency, the time.
Mm-hmm.
You get it back. So we're going to come back and we're going to continue this dialogue around social currency. How do I, in my exchange of conversation, earn something or get something of value? And especially in business. Next is going to be, how do I take the value I got and create revenue with it?
Got it.
So let's come back and talk about that. It's been great seeing you all again. Excuse my voice. I've got a little sinus infection here, but we'll be back to talk about social currency and the exchange of knowledge.
He's sitting next to me making me sick, actually.
Yeah.
We'll see you soon.